Is alcohol addiction hereditary? This is a question that I get asked quite a lot, and it might be something you're wondering about, especially if you have kids, right? It's a concern. I know I wouldn't want my kids to go through what I went through with alcohol and drugs. So it seems like the science part of this, that there is a genetic component, right? So it seems that some people have genes that predispose them to developing an alcohol use disorder. I mean, it's kind of incredible what we understand about this now, like what we didn't understand 50 years ago. But that's only 50% of the story, right? The other part of the story is the environmental factors. And I personally think the environmental factors are far more significant than the predisposition. So, my kids, for example, I'm aware because I have a history of alcohol addiction. My husband doesn't, but his mother died of cirrhosis of the liver because of alcoholism. So they do get that from both sides. So I am aware of that. And we have conversations with them that will probably have this predisposition, which means they may have a different response to alcohol or drugs. And they need to know that going in. So let's talk about the environmental factors, because I just think that is way more significant. So there's a couple of things. The first thing is how alcohol is modeled in your home and your community, right? Is drinking completely normalized? Growing up in a home where parents always drink at the weekends, any kind of celebration, social situation, alcohol is the norm. So we learn in our families and communities how to, like the appropriate way to eat food, the appropriate, like how to celebrate, right? So if alcohol, even though obviously, hopefully the kids aren't having it, they're just absorbing, this is what adults do. This is adulthood. I remember a story my son told me when he was like in second or third grade. He was having lunch with his friends and they all had like a sort of, they all had a drink in their cups and they all kind of went, cheers, and did like cheers and pretended it was beer. And my son told me that. And I was like, there is a kind of like kids want to be like adults. Kids want to be like the kid, like when you're 12, 13, you want like kids age 17, 18 are like very sophisticated when you're 12, 13. And we aspire to be like them. And we aspire to do what they do. If you think culturally, and this was very much my experience, and if you think about yours, alcohol was sold to me very much by my peer groups and very much by the peer group ahead of me, who just seemed to have the keys to this kind of magical, amazing, sort of fun, grown up world that alcohol offered. And when I was 13, 14, 15, I wanted that, right? I never saw any of the cost. Like I didn't see them hungover or, I mean, I probably saw people drunk, but it was told to me over and over and over and over and over again. This is fun. 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 What, like kids, in case you haven't noticed, kids love fun. They love it. That's what they live for. Kids live for fun. I mean, they can create fun out of a paper bag, right? So we reinforce this message. This is fun. This is fun. This is fun. So of course they're going to want to do it. So I think there is that aspect. Growing up in an environment that normalizes drinking. Like I really, I had a friend of a friend I think it was like a 13th birthday party for her daughter. And they were doing manis and petties, and that's fine. And mocktails, like fancy with umbrellas. And I was not okay with that bit because again, it makes the assumption and it normalizes that you're going to drink alcohol. And this is the bit that I have the biggest issue with. My mission, if I'm going to tell you what my mission is to create a world where not drinking is an option and not drinking is normalized and sold to us as a great lifestyle, right? Not drinking is a great lifestyle. Let me tell you, not drinking alcohol is a freaking great lifestyle, but that is not sold to us. So I think that factor combined with the emotional part, right? We, even when we're human beings, have big emotions. We have feelings. We have this whole spectrum of stuff going on inside of us, right? We have an interior life. Your interior life, nobody can see it, but you know it's there, right? And managing our interior life, our emotions and our feelings, and interpreting them and processing them, that is a essential life skill that we have to learn. But a lot of us don't. I didn't. And I'm wondering if you're watching this video, if you didn't either. If you want to learn how to do that, by the way, that's the core part of my teaching, and that'll be in the link below, because that's the emotional sobriety bit that we just missed out on learning how to manage our feelings and emotions. And if you want to stop drinking, you've got to learn how to do that. Please check out the link below because it will show you how. So we have all these big feelings and emotions, and we just don't know how to manage them. And if you grew up in a family or community that also didn't know how to manage them and just kind of gave you strong messages to kind of just shut that down. Like, I just pushed all my feelings down inside of me. So when I discovered alcohol, again, sold to me by this slightly older peer group in my culture as the most amazing thing ever. Who doesn't want to have the most amazing thing ever, right? I mean, combined with like having all this stuff going on inside of me and I didn't know how to manage it and I didn't know how to deal with it, along comes alcohol. I mean, there you go. That's the perfect formula. Like, because alcohol was the answer immediately for me, immediately. So I think that it's these environmental factors that are far more significant in whether a child, a young person is going to grow up to have an alcohol problem. And I really think it, like, you know, I used to get, years ago, I used to do work with, like, I used to do drug prevention work and education in schools and that kind of stuff. I would get parents would come up to me because people, you know, generally, I mean, we've heard lots of horror stories about drugs, right? When I grew up in the 80s, it was all like heroin, smack, you know, you're going to end up dead if you do heroin. And we hear all these scary stories. And I would have parents say to me, like, how, like, what's your best advice to, you know, keep my kids off drugs? Like, you know, what should I do? And I would say to them, I don't know if you're going to like my answer. And they would be like, and I would say, how do you deal with a stressful day or disappointment or being upset? How do you deal with that? And more often than not, they would say, well, I'll have a glass of wine. Exactly. That's what's being role modeled, is that you are role modeling that you need a substance to manage how you feel. And that kind of always shocked them because they didn't see it that way. So I think the biggest thing to think about if you are a parent and you do want to do the best you can to prevent your kids going down the same path is to role model dealing with difficult feelings and emotions in the healthiest way possible. Please don't think I mean be perfect, right? I, as a parent, I when I first became a parent, I was aiming for perfection. And I quickly learned that I had to settle for good enough. So it really is like being good enough as a parent. And I really think it's about, a lot of it is about what is role modeled. We used to live on the west coast of America, and there's quite a lot of Mormon communities. And I always really liked being around Mormons, also Muslims as well, because in their cultures, they don't drink alcohol and their kids are like being kids, doing all the things. And I liked that my kids would sort of be exposed to that, like kids having fun. And there was just no question of alcohol being involved. It's very cultural. Our relationship with alcohol is very, very cultural. It's learned behavior. And I think that is the thing that you really have to pay attention to in terms of prevention of addiction. I mean, I'm in this like experiment. My kids are 13 and 9, and they know what I do, and we talk about alcohol, definitely, probably in ways that I wasn't spoken about alcohol. But the big thing that I focus on is their emotional intelligence, in allowing them to process their feelings, validating their feelings, and giving them tools to manage their feelings. That's the biggest, like, that's what I'm doing. I'll let you know in 15 years how that all works out, because I'm trying to do the best I can from my background and everything I know to see how that works out. So I would love to know what you think and what your thoughts are on this in the comments below. And I think that there's, quite a lot that we can do to just begin to manage and help young people go down a different path. The good news is it does seem like, I mean, Gen Z is certainly drinking a lot less. However, I think things like marijuana use and drug use are, I think they're using, I don't think that they're not getting high. I really think that there's, substance abuse going on. It just may not be the way Gen X did it. They're doing it in their own way. And I think that the emotional intelligence bit is the bit that everybody needs more than anything else.